Okay, so now we have the math model, and I've showed you in PowerPoint how to set up the Excel, but I'm going to walk you through step by step. So whenever you make sure you copy your math model in, right? And then we're going to start. Pick any point. Let's say I'm going to start here at XH. The first row is X1 and X2, okay? And I'm just going to change the font a bit. So we're going to look at so here we go, and we are always going to leave the first row blank, okay? So it doesn't matter whether you have X1, X2 to up to X10. You are just going to start with the first row with the variables you're going to use, decision variables you're going to use, and then the first column is always blank. Here is we can call this your decision variables. And then your objective coefficients are always put here. So let's go ahead and mark them. And the reason I put these things down here is not only so you understand what's going on, but it's always a good practice, especially when you start, to do this, because you can get lost in all this X1 and X2 and the numbers. So the next one this was pumps. We have labor hours, and this would be 9 and 6. I hope you understand where I'm getting these numbers from. And then you have tubing. This is 12 and 16. All right, you don't have to put this. We'll talk about this, right? And I'm going to go ahead. There we go. So now here, this is the objective coefficient, which is right here. These are the constraints coefficients. These are not the constraints. These are coefficients of the constraints. So we're going to start with the sum product here. Here, we can decide. Sometimes I like to do this. I like to put the actual sign so I know when I select what it is. And here I'm going to play 15662880. Right? So we have essentially set up the problem, and this should take care of it. Now we can put the formulas in. So here is going to be where the objective is going to be. So we are going to go ahead and say sum product, and we're going to select the variables here, F4, and then the second value here. All right, so these are all dollars. So let's go ahead and make sure we have the dollar sign. And now we can copy this down. And the reason we can copy this down is that this already has the first row as dollars, second row is not dollars, right? So these are nothing to do with, so let's go ahead and change them to numbers, and let's change their color also. There we go. There you are. Okay. So here is your objective function, and you want to maximize this. This is what we want to maximize. These are all already set. All right. So now we have set up the problem. Once we have set up the problem, and I want to make this very clear, let's go ahead and make these bold. These are the only areas that you will use in the analytics solver. All right. You're going to select, of course, you're going to select this too. So essentially you will have this, and this selected in your optimization routine. You are not going to select this. I'm going to show you how to do it in analytics solver. I suggest all of you use this analytics solver. And I'm also going to show you Excel solver, which is slightly different. And some of you, if you still have not installed solver, you can use Excel solver, but I strongly advocate against that. Okay, so your objective is this now, right? This is your objective, and you are going to maximize it, not minimize. You're going to maximize it. Your variables are these two variables, right? And then your constraints are these three constraints are less than these three. Now you don't have to do it, you can do it each individually. This is less than this, click add. This is less than this, click add, right? You can do it that way. Let's go ahead and delete them. But when you group these constraints, when all less than or equal to are together, you can select all three, click OK, and say less than or equal to these. Notice that this has equal to, it has greater than, and it has int and bin. We are going to use the first five. We are not going to do diff, we're not going to do sock, we're not going to do src, we're not going to do sem. But we are going to use the first five, okay? And lastly, we've got to do x1, x2 is greater than or equal to 0. You can go here, engine, and you can say assume non-negative is true, right? In this case, the engine has to be standard LP, quadratic engine. Now, you can also go in the constraints and say these two here are greater than or equal to 0, right? And when you ever put a constraint right on the decision variable, they won't occur as a normal constraint, they would be a bound. So let me show you here. Add constraints, we say these are greater than 0. And you'll see that it comes right here as a bound. But right now, because we have said assume non-negative is true, we don't need this. This becomes a redundant constraint, so we just leave it like this, and we can run it. Right? So it gives you your solution. Now I want to show you the same kind of setup, but slightly differently. So now I want to put x1 and x2 in a vertical form. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm taking this, right? And then I'm essentially flipping it this way. Why would you do it this way? When you don't have that many, this works when you have many constraints and a few variables. Let's say you had 5 variables and 35 constraints. This setup is better. But let's say you had 30 variables, then this setup is better, okay? So I'm just going to show you how to do that. So x1, x2, again, let's go. This is your decision variable. You leave it blank. So I'm going to call your decision variable right here. This would be 350, 300. Pumps would be 1 and 1. This would be 9 and 6, 12 and 16, right? And so let's go ahead and give the same colors we had. This is $sign. These are green. So you know exactly where they're matching. Let me just give it the same color. Okay, there we go. So this will come right here. We're going to maximize that, right? This would come here. And these are all less than, equal to, and these would end up coming here, okay? So the sum product formula would also be here, equal to sum product. Instead of first row, we're going to select the first column, F4, comma, second column, no F4, do not put a $sign there, right? And then you are going to copy, paste formula, okay? Let's make sure it's selecting the right thing. Data, nope, formulas, calculate now, calculate sheet. Oh, it's just doing sum, not sum product. There you go. Sum product formulas. Okay. I like to keep all of these centered, so I center them. All right, so let's go ahead. The objective function here is now this I-12. Your variables are these two. Your constraints now are this is less than this, all right? And you should get the same answer. And you see you get the same answer. 122 and 78, you get the same answer. So in your Excel file, you have the horizontal build here, and then you have the vertical build here. You can have both. You can take a look at it. And this is a very important build because all your problems are built this way. Let's assume instead of just x1 and x2, I had x1, x2, x3, x4, x5. You would just put in x1, x2, x3, x4, x5. You would leave your first row blank. Your objective coefficients would come here, and then your constraints coefficients would be here. Your sum products would be all here. Here would all be your signs, and then here would be a right-hand side. Okay? Hopefully, this should make how you do your Excel stuff easy. We'll stop here, and next we'll go on to more complex problems in Excel.